In Chapter 3 of this Fire Emblem Engage Ringless run, we have to protect the shrine as it's being invaded by unknown soldiers who just showed up with a and now they're here to take our rings. Well, it's not like we're gonna use them, so can't we just let them have them? I suppose not. Anyway, this is the final map where Elyos is forced to wield the Marth Emblem Ring. Starting next chapter, he won't be able to do that anymore, so I need to get those skill points while I still can. On this map, we also face Pegasus Knights. I feel like in Fire Emblem, Pegasus Knights are either a complete joke or one of the worst enemies you'll ever face, depending on how the game is designed. In Engage, I don't really find them all that threatening. We start off this map with just Elyos and his 3 cheerleaders, and it does seem pretty bleak at first. I like to gather my units on the right side of the fallen pillar, as it gives me a nice buffer against the incoming enemies and allows me to take them on in relatively small numbers. However, we are soon joined by the Crown Prince of Firene, Alfred, and his 2 retainers. Alfred is a solid unit with a strong starting class, the Cavalier. While not being able to wield 2 weapons at base like its past iterations, the extra movement is very welcome in a game like this. Alfred also has extremely good bulk with an 80% HP and 60% defense growth. His other stats are good too, and he'll be of great help in the early game. His personal skill is also one of the better ones in the game, passively boosting his strength whenever he waits. This is a skill that will be useful often, which is more than I can say for most other personals in this game. Then we have the archer Elyos, and I just have to ask, isn't her whole gimmick that she is supposed to be into bodybuilding? So why then does she have 4 base build and a 5% build growth? Anyway, Elyos has a very strong introduction in this game as she can pick off the Pegasus Knights at 2 range, but I find that despite this strong start, Elyos struggles to keep up, a problem which will only be exacerbated on Maddening. Her strength is good, but her average speed combined with low build means that she will struggle to double, and most of the time she might even find herself being doubled. And this combined with her laughable durability means that it's very tricky to keep her alive. Her personal is also garbage, boosting her strength whenever she uses a recovery item. This might have some use if you reclass her, but for all intents and purposes, it's just a gimped version of Alfred's skill. Sadly, I don't see myself using Elyos a lot in this playthrough, but she will be useful in this chapter at least. Lastly, we have the fighter Boucheron, and here we have a unit that I know will see a lot of use in this run, because the ability to deliver chain attacks is going to be essential. Without rings, I will need as much extra damage as I can possibly get my hands on, so Boucheron will be put to great use here. When he later promotes to warrior, he'll be able to deliver a lot of chain attacks with a longbow, something that I'm sure to utilize a lot. As a unit himself, Boucheron is a solid fighter with tons of bulk. He has good HP, strength, and a remarkably high build growth, though his luck needs something to be desired, so I need to be on the lookout for enemies with high crit ratings like Swordmasters. Boucheron's personal skill is also very nice, giving him extra damage whenever he's part of a chain attack, something I want to set up a lot anyway, so this is a skill that will just passively be useful. I don't know how well he'll keep up on Maddening mode, but I'll certainly use Boucheron as much as I can in the early game. With our new allies, taking on the incoming enemies becomes much more manageable. On this map, there's absolutely no reason to rush forward, as there's no villages in danger or thieves going for treasure chests, so I can chill at my own pace, pulling enemies as I see fit. There's not really much to say here. As long as I take care to pull the Pegasus Knights with my tankier units, I can easily dispatch them with the rest of my army. Elyos is very useful here. She's guaranteed to kill 1 Pegasus Knight per player phase. I continue hugging the right side of the collapsed pillar as it gives me a wall to hide my weaker units behind. And considering there's no enemies on this map with 2 range, it's very easy to keep my weaker units protected. Chain Guard is very nice for when I pull a bit too many enemies at once, which happens towards the end as I get into aggro range of the boss, which has linked AI with all of her subordinates. Instead of taking on that many units at once, I decide to just retreat back to my comfy pillar where I can set up a wall of defense. I deal with all the generic enemies first, saving the boss for last. And the boss of this chapter is the Armor Knight Abeam. Abeam is quite tanky, but she poses little threat on her own as she can't one-run any of my guys. You may also notice that she is completely immune to effective damage. This is a trait she shares with all other bosses on Maddening. So if you thought not being able to break them was bad, you won't be able to kill them with hammers and halberds either, so have fun. Dealing with Abeam on her own is not hard. I pull her in with Boucheron, and then I just rain down chain attacks on her with all my units to try and get as much boss chip experience as I can, as experience gains on Maddening mode are extremely poor. Anyway, this was another pretty easy chapter. Join us next time as we take on Chapter 4.